Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with Traders Summit, and I have Mr. Richard Matthews from 1.io joining us today to talk all sorts of smack about the crypto market because he works at a crypto brokerage firm.
No.
Okay, well, if we're not going to do that, we'll catch you on the
Have a
next
nice evening.
episode. Yeah, have a great one. No, let's
You've thrown me now.
Let's talk a little bit about what's happening here. I have to say this to everybody listening. Last year, that would be the end of 2023, you said, and this is before everybody went crazy on rate cuts, you said, I think the Fed's next move is going to be higher. I know people are thinking that there's going to be a cut. They weren't talking 6 cuts. People were just talking it's going to be a cut at some point. And you're like, I don't think so. And then the market started pricing in the risks of 6 rate cuts, thanks to not Bowman, who's the Fed chair that got a spin in that direction. Anyway, was it Williams? Anyway, doesn't matter, because then you still stuck to your guns and you're like, yeah, I don't think so. Now here we are, after going to 6 rate cuts to possibly 4 to now it might only be 2. Has Richard been right this whole time? I mean, tell us how you feel about Fed Powell this week, when he basically said, it's taking a lot longer to whittle down inflation than we thought. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? And people actually, I don't think he really said very much this week that he hadn't been saying before. It's just like seems to have caught the ear this week a little bit of people. It is taking longer to control inflation, but I think there are inflationary pressures that maybe he's seeing that other people aren't. But just putting that out there, maybe he's seeing something he doesn't like. Money supplies, been ticking back up, having created last year, which is always a good sign of a healthy economy. Economy looks good.
I was going to say the fact is that he said it's likely to take longer for confidence on inflation, which is just it's just I guess another way of saying rates are going to stay higher for longer.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the funny thing is, though, that actually the higher rates go, the more heavy lifting the bonds do for the Fed. And actual fact, I think that if you see the 10-year up towards 5%, the more likely you are to get a cut, because I think that the pressure's then off. He can get a nice steep yield curve. He can knock out the bonds that he wants to knock out at the long end, and everyone's happy. So I don't know if that's a deliberate game, but it's a funny argument. The higher bonds go, the more likely you are to get a Fed cut. Yeah, but I can see it. Because I think it puts pressure onto equities. Which again feeds back into the economy. So I think there could be a good argument there for that. However, I still don't see a cut this year.
Okay, so you still don't see a cut this year, and I know everybody's doing the same math. It's like, okay, it's an election year. The election's the beginning of November 5th, I believe, and here's where the Fed meets. Can they if they're going to cut, are they going to do it right before the election and look political, or do they wait for the election, cut right after the election? I mean, it becomes pretty difficult.
And the clock's ticking. We're getting closer and closer to the election, November the 5th, which is a very famous day in the UK, November the 5th. It's when we celebrate a guy called Guy Fawkes trying to blow up the Houses of Parliament. And we have a firework display. So it's a pretty ominous date to have an election on. That does, if it is the 5th of November. It's an increasing problem. I mean, Trump was no fan of Powell's, and as I've said before, I suspect he'd really like to see Biden back in power. I can't see that he can. It looks so political if he cuts, in October, doesn't it? I don't know.
It's a tricky one. So you know what? It looks like the Fed might keep rates unchanged, at least higher for longer. Whether they hike or cut is to be determined. But I want to congratulate you on sticking to your guns. Pretty much since the end of last year, you thought that the market was on crack or something, on drugs. Yeah. So So congratulations. But let's take a look at the UK economy. We got some data that came in this week. We saw, CPI data, we had employment data, and we have some retail sales coming at the end of the week. But what are your thoughts about the UK data and the UK economy in general?
In a word, stagflation.
Persistent inflation and no growth.
Yeah,
No to
and
little
no
growth.
growth. Look at unemployment starting to creep up. Inflation, the headline number was a little bit worse than expected, 3.1, 3.2, so what? But it's the services part of that number, which the Bank of England looks at, and that's gone up from 5.8 to 6%. 6%, oh, that's close to the 2% target. It's only 3 times. So I can't see that they can cut with services inflation like that, with wage growth the way it is, knocking on 6% as well. There's no way that they can cut because it would just feed inflation. Next month's figures are really interesting as well. I don't know if it's the same over there, but we get a lot of annualized price rises. So like this month, my mobile phone's gone up, my TV subscription has gone up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also the state increases its payments to pensioners, to the unemployed, to whatever. State pension has gone up, I think, 8.5%, which is inflationary. My mobile phone's gone up, God knows by how much. My all my bills are increasing this month, so you should get a real poor figure coming out next month. People still talking about a June cut. I just don't see they can do it. I think the earliest is probably September, and we then have the same problem, or he has the same problem as Jay Powell. We've got an election coming. I personally think it could be sooner than people anticipate. We've got local elections, which are in May, and they're going to be an absolute bloodbath for Sunak. So there's no way that they can drop rates before then. If they see dropping them immediately in the aftermath of bad election results for the government, I think that would look too political. So you can write off June, July, August. Very unlikely. They're getting boxed in, as I think Michael and we've talked about before. That the central bank's boxing themselves in, and we have the same inflationary pressures as you're going to get in the States. Really looks good to get a yacht or a boat through the Suez Canal at the moment, doesn't it?
So, let me point out a couple of things, Dick. First of all, your TV costs are going up because you're the only one that uses a TV. Just so we're clear. Okay, I had to. You walked into it.
You had to say that.
You walked into that one.
Yeah.
No, but
you watch Netflix.
jokes aside. The other issue is, well, the other question I have for you is, what do you think happens with the sterling? Because in a stagflationary environment, I mean, the Fed, as you pointed out, but also the Bank of England's a little boxed in. So what does that mean for a currency? Because, we are, a lot of us, market participants, myself included, even after 25 years, I don't know what's going to happen during a stagflation environment to your currency. Usually I have an idea of what I think is going to happen, but what do you think is going to happen?
I think the euro is going to go down.
That has nothing to do with the sterling, but yes, go ahead.
It does. I would hold sterling over euros. Okay. I think the euro goes to parity against the dollar. Is a bold prediction.
I think that is bold, and I'm a currency dude. I do think that's bold, but I like it. You've been bold before.
There you could. I'll nail my flags to the post on that. I think it goes to parity.
Wow.
Europe has to cut. They've said we're going to cut in June.
Yeah.
What do you do? What's happening to US rates? I mean, it's just a massive carry trade. But I'm dodging the question. I would sell sterling against the dollar, and I would buy sterling against the euro. So my outright would be short euro, long dollars.
There you go. Well, spoken like a true currency man.
I've taken your breath away now.
You are totally. Okay, well, why don't you take everybody else's breath away and tell us what you think Bitcoin's going to do?
I was really puzzled over the weekend at the price action once Iran started lobbing missiles at Israel, which I will say I'd be amazed if Israel doesn't retaliate in some way. And I'm not going to be political, but I just imagine if I was sitting here and 300 missiles were aimed at the UK from France, I think that the UK would have a tough time not to retaliate. But I don't really want. I shouldn't go into that. I was really surprised at the way it sold off, and then bounced back pretty much straight off. Maybe it's not that great store of wealth that people have been talking about. Gold actually behaved as you expected gold to do. I thought the Bitcoin might behave in the same way. It certainly didn't, which makes me wonder what's beneath the market.
And I'm sure aside from stops below the market, which I think people might be wondering, but I think you make a great point. Bitcoin has been a product of, I can call it, just as a generalization, the Wall Street money machine, right? So if Bitcoin is a product of the Wall Street money machine, which encapsulates the entire financial industry, if you will, if we do see some risk aversion, probably fresh investments into crypto that we've seen over the last 6 to 12 months are probably going to be the first ones to get hit. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree with that. However, I was talking to a friend of mine, or the guy I work with, he's a lot younger than I am. And he's, I wouldn't buy gold. You can't do anything with gold. You can't move it. I'd always buy Bitcoin over gold. So there is that underlying sort of generational view towards it. I'm sure you probably get it from your kids. And also, and I'm going to use a word I really dislike, de-dollarization in the Middle East. I don't think America's flavor number one in a lot of places. And I think that the dollar, people are happier holding Bitcoin than the dollar. I'm not saying I am, and I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I think there's a segment of society that feels that. So there might be some underlying strength, but where that underlying bid is 45, 50, 55, I don't know. But I think there is an underlying strength there. But to see a market, all right, it's a weekend. It was a pretty well telegraphed move by Iran, wasn't it? I mean, let's be honest. Anyone who went into the weekend with a position was either stupid or very stupid. And maybe it's just very thin market. I don't know. It's a hard one. I wouldn't be a buyer up at these levels. I'd look for it to come back a fair bit more.
All right.
That's just as a trader. That's just a fundamental gut feeling.
Have you seen my face? Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we.
I've made one bold prediction.
You did. Well, I'll tell you, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, Richard. Tell us the best way to follow your work.
You can follow me at one.io. I got the name right. You didn't. You can follow me on Twitter at one or at Dickie Matthews, and the S is a number 5 in the Matthews.
Richard, these are the times where traders that have not seen a lot in the market, they don't have a lot of experience. This is the time they need to take a step back and really listen to people like yourself, or even people like me that have been in the markets for 25 years that have seen a few things. It's time to take a look at some experience and learn from what you have to offer, Richard.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say before I go, look at 1973. 51 years ago, when I had a full head of bouffant hair, massive, great big collars, and I was about 6 stone lighter. 1973 is really interesting parallels to now.
I was going to say, I'm not pooping in my diapers as of right now, so not that close of a parallel that I had in 1973. So, Richard, thank you very much. We're going to be taking a look at those charts for sure. And make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, set an alert. Next time I have a interview with Mr. Richard Matthews, you're going to get notified when that happens. Richard, thanks for joining us here on the Trader Summit. I'll be catching up with you hopefully next week.
Cool. Have a good one. Cheers now. Bye.
Hey traders, Blake Morrow here. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also click the bell notifications so you do not miss any of our market-related trading analysis from some of the leading industry experts. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you in the next video.